It's going all right. I had a real question, but I also just have some, things here and there that I'm just sort of curious about. So is this happening in the normal atheist experience, free thought library, or are you doing this remotely? Because I can't see any video feed. I don't even know if it is.
Right.
But out there.
So we're recording a video feed right now, but yes, I'm in the Free Thought Library where the Atheist Experience is usually hosted and stuff, and same production team as well too. So yeah, it's going to be produced through the ACA. It's going to be really, really awesome.
So are you schlepping from San Antonio to? I don't know if you're still there. I know you used to be.
Yeah, so
are you going to be going back and forth?
Basically, yeah. I live in the Central Texas area right now, so it's about an hour and a half drive for me. So I'm probably just going to have to make the drive every week to try to do this. But it'll be worth it,
Yeah, some good dedication, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm excited to see this, growing.
Thank you.
I started watching Anthony's videos about 2.5 years ago, maybe, and I've been talking to pretty much anyone who is at least somewhat involved with secular humanism, not necessarily atheist, but that, talking about this kind of stuff and sharing these videos, and I'm just seeing it grow and grow, and I'm really proud for the community. So to see an actual, TV show that can get, obviously there's all the people, having the one-on-one talks, but the TV show, I think, will be a big impact. So I can't wait to see it happen.
Yeah, me too, man. Even since the small amount of time that I've joined the community, I've seen a whole lot of growth. I've seen a lot of new channels, and it's great to see so many different people using the method now. And I am just so glad to give back in this kind of way, and show other people how good the method really is, and kind of draw people in. So I think it's going to be really awesome once we get things really started here, but it starts by doing a couple test shows like this. So thanks again for calling in. Did you have any a question you wanted to ask me, or?
Well, I guess maybe this is the kind of question that would be better suited if there's a lot of other people watching, so they could, hear the answer. But maybe I'll call in another time and ask it again. But so recently I had a situation I actually posted about in the Facebook group with a friend of mine who is unfortunately dealing with a type of cancer and is trying to cure it with diet alone, at least until if things get really bad, he's open to doing chemo, but at the moment he's you know what, I want to do things the natural way, and he's following a lot of blogs, ... So I tried to have a conversation. I wasn't entirely SE focused, but it was basically, I guess my question is, when you're talking with someone where the topic is about something that's that close to them and, is affecting their life, and they don't want to be dissuaded from what they're doing because they feel like that's right.
Yeah.
What kinds of, is that a right time to bring that kind of thing up? Especially if they don't want to really, maybe we'll talk about it for 5 minutes, but SE sometimes, goes on for half an hour, and people are busy,
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out how to bring up this conversation in a way where it allows for a longer discussion without freaking the other person out.
So the hard limit I usually draw is if we're talking about end of life scenarios.
It's not that. It's this. He has a chance. He has a really good chance of surviving if he does chemo. Okay, yeah. So you're trying to convince him that this is what he's trying right now isn't the right way, and there are better, more evidence-based ways of kind of helping which
this
is
problem.
why I was not doing full SE, because the thing is, he's open to evidence. He's he's not into a faith-based person, but he's open to evidence. But it's sort of like the anti-vaxxers are open to evidence, but they find their own evidence, which is not supported by peer-reviewed scientific journals.
Right.
And so that's where I'm at,
Yeah, I don't know, because we want to avoid the backfire effect by, giving him all this evidence and this information that, may end up having him, hold on to his beliefs even more so. But at the same time, we want to let them know that, hey, this isn't what you're doing right now is not working. I haven't personally ran into a scenario like that, so I don't know the best way to approach something like that, only because the stakes are a lot higher. First thing I would say, as general advice, you shouldn't be the only one talking to him about this. If you can, you should have other people in his life kind of, talk to him about this. I mean, just as a general rule, I think in this kind of situation. But
just sort of like sick other people on them, just be like, hey, you hear about this person's decision? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
You talk to him too, that kind of thing?
Yeah, or just be like, have other people in his life talk about how chemo is an option that needs to be considered or something, some other people that he trusts. Yeah. Because we do accept information from people that we do trust. And that's something that the backfire effect also mentions. If you read the literature about it, is, we kind of develop these sources that we consider more reliable than others, and so if this is coming from a more reliable source or at least what he perceives as reliable, it might be something that he's more open to consideration for. Yeah,
I mean, like that. I'm not the closest to him. Like, we're not like best friends. He's like a friend of a friend, who I've hung out with a bit, and I don't have that much sway. Because I'm sort of like an acquaintance, but at the same time, like when I hear stories about people, I mean, I know, just the stories I've heard like on like Atheist Experience or Talk Heathen with, I believe Eric had a close relative, I think it was his uncle who didn't use a method that could more likely help him. Not like, science could definitely have saved his life, but like very likely. And this is the same kind of situation where, from what I'm seeing in my quick Google searches, which aren't by any means like really, a deep dive into it. The kind of cancer that he has like an 80%, is it remission rate? I don't know. If you do chemo.
So let me ask you this: have you talked to him about why he's decided that the method he's trying now is better than chemo? Do you know the reason?
I mean, I haven't asked him that. I sort of already have an inkling. Okay. I haven't asked him point blank like that. And the reason why is because he's the kind of person that is very open to pseudoscientific thinking in terms of astrology and that kind of thing. Like, he's not faith-based in terms of like religious. He's one of those like spiritual but not religious people.
Okay. Yeah.
So he distrusts like the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, not in the way that I do, where I think like, yeah, there's a lot of them trying to make money out there, but like the actual, doctors and scientists who are working on cures aren't trying to just like make money. It's the companies that are trying to make money.
I see.
And he's like, oh, the whole thing is trying to make money. And like, there's these way simpler, cheaper dietary cures that you can do. Look at all these testimonies of these people on these blogs.
Okay, yeah. So
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, so gosh, you have to ask him, I mean, his method, like how he determines something to be reliable and something not. Is it because if it's a certain company that makes it more reliable or less reliable? Or let's say that, I don't know, I mean, you could throw some hypotheticals at him, like, let's say that there was a pharmaceutical company that actually had a medicine that worked. Maybe asking him how he would be able to determine whether or not it actually works. What methods he's using to come to the conclusion that the things he's using now are more reliable than, say, chemotherapy.
So that kind of thing was sort of brought up, and I don't think he thinks that chemo doesn't work.
Okay.
I think he believes that chemo has a lot of side effects that could mess up your body in other ways, and so he's trying to do it the more natural way, which he sees as being diet. Like, basically, obviously, I mean, I don't think it's pretty clear to anyone who lives here on planet Earth that chemo does help people.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't deny that. He's like seeing blogs that are saying, do it this healthy and cheaper way. Don't spend a lot of money at the doctors to cure you in this way that will cure you of your cancer, but will fuck up your body in other ways. Right? And I guess that's sort of.
So Drew, I think, can you hear us now? Are you on the line?
Yeah, things are looking better.
Okay, great. So Drew, I mean, you specialize in the alternative medicine, science. I mean, what's your take on this? What would you tell someone who is kind of having this problem? I don't know, you kind of came in the middle of the call, but I'm guessing you can pick up on what we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've gotten this question myself a few times with similar cases. So yeah, I've tried the counter apologetics method of talking about, I guess, alternative medicine is there. I call them counter apologetics because I call them alternative medicine apologetics. They're very religious type arguments when people are arguing for these kinds of things. So I've tried that, and it's not great. I mean, street epistemology I still think is the way to go. I have used street epistemology with people on this, and it's a little bit different, just slightly, than maybe a religious belief. Are you able to hear me still?
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
I can hear you. And because it doesn't come down to faith for them, I would say. It comes down to personal experience of other people's personal experience is the way that I was hearing it from my friend, also named Dan. Why is there so many Dans?
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just like, all these other people had these personal experiences that led them to recover from cancer safely. And so that's what I think, like, the equivalent of the faith is in this situation. I could be wrong about it. Maybe there's something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that you're probably spot on. I mean, obviously you want to be honest and investigate it for yourself and make sure so that we're not misrepresenting anybody. But,
right.
In those conversations, I've seen that basically, personal experience kind of ends up being the equivalent of faith. And personal experience, a lot of the time with religious claims, that's the crux of it too. So I would say that there are some videos out there, especially that Anthony has done, that are just talking to somebody about whether or not personal experience is reliable. There actually is a great Matt Dillahunty talk out there about personal experience. And I think it helps us understand more deeply what we can even say to a person who is referencing their personal experience or citing that as some kind of evidence. I mean, one of the things that you can put this in question form very easily. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify here that it's not his personal experience because he hasn't really experienced being cured of this yet. He's trusting like dozens and dozens of personal experiences of blogs that he's read online. And so he looks at that and sees it like, look at all these people. For him, like, that's the science. He's like trusting all these other people who had these personal experiences and came out of it, quote unquote, cured, or just like spontaneous remission in my, mindset. So because he's not like looking at internally, he's looking externally. How has that changed? How do I approach that?
Well, I think that anything that you're going to want to say you'd want to put it in question form to stick with the SU method, because I think that's probably your best bet. And asking questions kind of like, I've asked this myself, so there are all of these personal experiences, and as long as they actually say, yes, I believe it because of all these personal experiences that I read about. But if you were to see people talk about personal experiences with things like chemo, with traditional medicine, what would you think? Would you believe them? If they say no...
You might have been not on the call at this point. He doesn't think that chemo doesn't work.
Yeah, so
he believes chemo works, but he thinks his method is cleaner and healthier. And so he wants to do that one first, and then as a last resort, he'll do chemo. But I'm worried that he'll be waiting too long and have a Steve Jobs type situation. I don't know if you were aware of what happened with Steve Jobs, but that's basically what he did, where he so.
Yeah. Trying the natural methods first.
I missed that part of the call, but yeah.
I know I'm sort of like throwing all these curveballs at you with this. I didn't do full SE with him just because I don't know. It just didn't happen naturally, and I didn't really think about it. I don't know. I should have tried doing that, I guess. But it was like a 5-minute conversation, 10-minute maybe. And afterwards, I was just like, oh, maybe there are better ways of me doing that. But I can't really come back to it because it seemed like he didn't really want to be talking about it much longer.
Yeah. So again, I think this is just one of those situations in particular where having other people talk about it with you or at different times is going to help because this is like a real situation that needs to be handled beyond just because SE, while effective and while useful, is also kind of a slow burn, and this is something that is not going to, you just don't have the time for that. And the stakes are just a little bit higher. So I would try to use an SE method if you can. I would try to ask him questions like, what makes him so sure that these blogs and these things that he's looking at are more reliable than other kinds of scientific literature? And what would change his mind? If
That's a good question. Yeah, what would change your mind? That's a good question.
Yeah, like if these blogs were suddenly saying now that chemo was okay, and that these effects were like, would that change his mind? I mean, like, just kind of testing different variables, I'd say, if you can, and seeing what works, because, these natural methods unfortunately do kill people, and I don't want that to happen to your friend at all. Yeah, there's definitely a more pressing way to go about it than just an SE. But I still think it's good to use. I still think you should at least try and ask a couple those kinds of questions if you can. Yeah,
no, that's one that I just didn't think about at the time, which obviously I heard Anthony say a bunch of times, but it just doesn't pop into my... When you're like having a impassioned conversation with someone, sometimes trying to like step back and have that kind of pause, for me, definitely can be hard as the question asker,
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone answering, especially because the other person is also sort of trying to convince you. And so if you pause, then they just start talking, and then you can't think of a question now.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Well, yeah. What kinds of things should your mind? I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. I hope that helps.
Anyway, I feel like I've been. It totally is.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think I know who you, Drew, right?
This is a genetically modified skeptic. He has a channel on YouTube.
Oh, gotcha. That's the name I know you by, not your actual name.
Right. Yeah. He's awesome.
I've seen you on Talk to You Then. I haven't actually watched your YouTube show, but maybe I should check it out.
Yeah, Drew, maybe you could tell him a video he should watch for his friend or something. You have something like that, or?
Yeah. So if you want to get acquainted with some of the relevant research, I do tend to cite relevant research a good bit in some of my videos because I talk about this alternative medicine stuff. So I'll go ahead and point you to a video that I made that doesn't sound like it's about alternative medicine, but it's a little bit of a Trojan horse for my audience, which that was the point. But it's called How Peaceful Religion Kills. And it's basically
what religion kills?
How Peaceful Religion Kills.
Peaceful, okay.
Yeah, the subtitle to that video is Religion as a Placebo. So in that
I got it up.
Yeah, I would watch that, listen to that. It's relatively short, and also check out my sources, because I did cite a source there that talks about that people that rely on all natural type stuff, they tend to die of cancer, like way more, a lot more. And I compare that to faith healing in the video, but that's not necessarily super relevant for what you're talking about. But another good resource may be the Miles Powers YouTube channel. He is a chemist, and he makes some good skeptic type videos on that kind of stuff too.
Right, Miles Powers. Okay. Yeah, I think what's something you just said about how all natural method kills. Like I do, when I was hearing him talk about this, I was doing research, and it seems like for the cancer that he has, it's either Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, one of those.
Okay.
And what they say on the website, they have some information, like on the actual research website for the .org for Hodgkin's lymphoma, mentions how eating healthfully can sort of it's not that it while doing chemo you should also be eating healthfully,
right,
and all these because eating worse things as well as just eating healthfully can prevent cancer from forming. And so, everyone's aware of that. If you eat a lot of these, they say some kinds of, meats, if you cook these meats, that's carcinogenic. And so you hear all of that, and there's evidence to support that, from what I understand. Maybe you know more than me.
No, you're pretty spot on.
Okay. So I think that is the kind of mindset where they're like, well, if it can prevent it, it can help cure it too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to, other than literally shoving a peer-reviewed study in someone's face, tell them what there's a difference between preventative medicine and curing medicine. I mean, other than the like, what would change your mind, which is what you just said. So I guess that's
Another
just sort
way
of
to
what
do
I gotta.
it sounds like you're analyzing what he is ultimately believing, what little things here and there that are bringing him to his conclusion. So I would actually advise maybe make a list of the little ideas he may have that have come across, like believing that something that can prevent can also cure, which not everything that prevents can cure, or vice versa. And so you may want to write some of those things down and just leave some space on the page for you to actually formulate questions to, if those assertions come up, that you'll have ready and you'll have thought about it and just prepared beforehand, so that, if it's a good time, obviously, in the conversation, that you'll just have that ready to go and you won't get overwhelmed by a bunch of rhetoric from his side, if you pause for too long or something like that.
I totally get where you're coming from, but I'm also thinking now, if I show up there with like notes, that he might
maybe
go like, oh no.
Yeah, maybe he'll be like, maybe he'll be like, oh, he really cares about me and he really wants to know, wants me to be okay. I wouldn't go that far. I don't know your friend. I don't know what his response might be, but I wouldn't assume the worst.
I'm not sure either. Who knows at that point?
Well, Dan, we're gonna go ahead and
you can exactly.
Other callers. I think we got some other callers that we're gonna try to talk to today. But thanks again for calling, and I hope that everything that we told you today helps with your situation.
I hope so too. I hope I get to interact with them again soon, because we're not like super close friends. We don't hang out that often, and I don't want to just like call him up and say, let's meet to talk about only this, because that's not going to help the situation either. It has to be come up naturally, I think.
Yeah, hopefully.
But, thanks again.
Yeah, keep us updated on the Street Epistemology Facebook groups. You mentioned that you had posted that originally. I'd love to hear what happens with that, and if there's any more that we can do from there. But thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.